If the supply lines stopped tomorrow and all you had was the food you have right now and your ability to grow whatever you can grow right now, how long would you have food? Seriously. The reason I ask is because America's food system is incredibly fragile. It's not something that we talk about very often, and it's something that, especially in today's climate, geopolitically, it needs to be discussed. Because our system is reliant on globalization. It's reliant on a lot of foreign inputs. And yes, America does grow a lot of food nationally. The problem is we export most of our food and then we import most of our food as well. So we rely on a series of trades. Now, that wasn't always the case. America used to be largely agricultural. Somewhere in the realm of like 80 to 90% of Americans used to be involved in agriculture like 100, 120 years ago. But today, that number has dropped to less than 5%. What that means for you is that you get all of your food from the grocery store. Grocery stores are fantastic. They're amazing. They're literally modern phenomena. They're something that they didn't exist in the way that they exist now, even 80 years ago, right? They're very like the supermarkets, the Walmarts, the Publix, the Targets. Those things, they weren't always here like they are today. The point I'm making is, if everything shut down and the grocery store shelves, as you've seen, they only have enough food on hand to last a few days. It's reliant on a constant influx, right? So you buy food, they ship new food in. You buy food, they ship new food in. But what happens if they can't ship new food in? This is an even bigger issue in major cities, but it's also a large issue in rural populations as well. As less and less people grow food, we become more and more reliant on a grocery store. We live in a time that doesn't know famine. We live in a time that doesn't know starvation. The reason I'm bringing this up is because, as we've all seen on the news, there's always something going on where somebody's bombing somebody. This war happened here. This happened here, right? Supply lines are going to get disrupted eventually. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So when supply lines get disrupted, we need to make sure there are contingencies in place. That's why we're growing food now, okay? Even if you don't know how to grow food right now, well, good thing the grocery stores are still there, right? But if the grocery stores disappeared tomorrow, how good are you? How many people do you know that are actively growing food? How much food are you actively growing? Hopefully it's a lot. If not, you've got a little bit of work to do. Either A, you've got to come up with a plan to be able to get food if and when something were to happen, right? God forbid. And B, you need to be able to do it yourself. And this is very doable. The cool part about food is once you get good at it, growing an abundance of food isn't necessarily a hard thing to do. It just takes time, energy, commitment, knowledge, a little bit of discipline, right? It just takes those things to be able to grow food consistently. And if everyone was doing it, we wouldn't have an issue, right? If you had peppers and he had onions and I had peaches and tomatoes and potatoes, right? And we all had different things going, and we could all share. And we'd have plenty of food. Food could be free because we're all growing it. But right now we're paying for food, right? We use food as a commodity because, well, we don't have enough of everything for everybody to have everything unlimited. So we have to charge. We have to trade money in the form of currency. Currency is just energy, right? It's just condensed energy. It's your time, right? So somebody will pay you your time, and that takes your energy, and then you use that condensed spent energy and you pay for a peach or an apple or a plum, which is another form for you to eat, or you pay for a movie ticket, or you pay for a plane ticket, or whatever you end up paying for. But it's all just about flow. And the thing about money is that you think money can buy anything, and in good times it can. You can buy pretty much any good or commodity or service with money. But in bad times, money's not nearly as valuable because you'd rather have a ton of food in a scenario where the grocery stores are all down than a ton of money. Now, obviously, you still want a ton of money if the grocery stores are down because maybe you can figure something out. But if you don't have a ton of money and you don't have a ton of food and the grocery stores are down, now we're in a really bad spot. And that is exactly why I'm making this video. Because what are we going to do? Well, first things first, We got to stop just front yard lawns, right? Backyard lawns. We're growing things for grass, right? We don't eat grass. We're not cows. Unless you're a cow watching this video, right? You don't eat grass. And if you do eat grass, please get help. Wheatgrass is different. You can juice it, but we don't eat it. But like, we've got to figure something out. That's why we're starting the fruit forest and the front lawn. That's why we're starting the front yard garden. That's why we're starting a backyard garden, a backyard fruit forest. That's why we grow microgreens. Like, we grow a lot of different stuff. And I'm still relatively new to growing. Like, it's still the first few years of my grow journey as well, right? So I'm just kind of figuring things out as I go. You don't have to be a professional at this to start doing it now. And that's kind of the point I'm making, is that with a system that's so fragile, that's so based, it's on 1,000 different chains throughout this entire world. If one of those chains breaks, it disrupts the entire system, and then all of a sudden, it just takes a few of those chains down the line to where all of a sudden there's a big stop, and for some reason, 1 week, ships can't make it into the grocery store, or something happens, and we see a supply shock, right? We saw the first version of this during the vid back in 2020, where things didn't show up. The toilet paper scare, right? Toilet paper was gone, and everyone was freaking out. They're like, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna wipe our butts? Okay, fine. What happens when the food's gone? Now you see chaos. Now you see madness. But I'm not here to spread fear. Instead, we gotta stop riding the John Deere, right? We got to figure something else out. We gotta plant fruit trees. We gotta plant veggies. We gotta plant crops. You gotta be ready now. And that's just the way it is, because these days, with as hectic as everything is, we don't know what's happening. We don't know what's going to happen. No matter where you're at on politics, who knows what's going to happen, right? So instead of trying to guess, instead of trying to just be like, oh, of course this is going to happen and it'll all be fine, how about you just prep? How about you just get ready? How about you just start planning things now? Plant ahead, right? Worst case scenario, you get a bunch of food and you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for it at the grocery store later on. Worst case scenario, you learn you suck at it, and then you learn how to get better at it, and then you get better and better and better and better, right? And then eventually you're just growing a ton of food anyway. Even if you've only got like a backyard, even if you've only got 100 square feet, just start growing stuff, right? Now if you got a big yard, bring some friends in. Be like, hey, we can all grow here. I got way too much space. Cool. Then now you're going to have plenty of food, and you'll have help, and they will also have plenty of food, and you guys can all work together. You just got to have the time and a little bit of resources. Seeds, super duper cheap. You can go online and buy seeds for pennies on the dollar. They're not expensive. You need a little bit of soil, right? A little bit of amendment. You can make fertilizer. You can make all of these things. You can do a centropic system pretty affordably if you start from seed. Or you can buy nursery trees like we did to see if we could get it going a little bit faster. So there's all kinds of different things. But at the end of the day, what we need to work on as a country, what we need to work on as a civilization, what we need to work on as an entire world is food sustainability through proper systems and system maintenance, right? So it's all about systemizing the food to where it's sustainable in every location. Now, if you live in the middle of a desert and you can't grow anything, then maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't live in the middle of a desert. But even then, you can do greenhouses. You can bring in water. There's options, right? You just have to work a lot harder at it. But if you're like most people and you live in a place that can grow stuff, if you see grass growing on the side of the road, odds are you can plant something there, right? Something can be grown. Something needs to be grown. If you have a lawn and you don't have access to tons and tons of food on the snap of a finger because you have a farm down the street that you own or that you're friends with or something like that, then maybe growing something would be a wise idea. I'm not saying that we all have to stockpile food, but that's not a bad idea either. If you have a bunch of dry goods in case of an emergency, that's never gonna be a bad thing, right? Long-term dry goods storage is very, very beneficial. But I'm also talking about the stuff that keeps you going. The vegetables, the fruits, all the things that make food taste good, like seasonings or herbs. you can grow a lot of these things, and then you don't have to buy it, but two, in case of any kind of calamity or catastrophe or disaster happening, you still have access to the things that you want to eat because you grew it. And so that's the basics of it, is we need to work on systemization, and this one can be done through, rather than having mega systems where we have 5% of the population doing 90% of the growing. I'm not saying we go back to the other way, whereas 90% of the population doing 90% of the growing. I'm saying instead what we do is we focus on developing systems that allow us to have sustainable agriculture production in the local community. And so that could be lawn to lawn, that could be certain community aspects where these people focus on the growing side of things and people pool resources for the people to grow. That could be all kinds of different things. But what doesn't work and what isn't working, and the reason why Americans are sick, is because the agricultural system is not set up for us to be healthy. So if we want to set up the system for us to be healthy, one, we have to make the system healthy for the earth, for the planet, right? Like if it's not good for the planet, in the long term, it's not going to be good for us. So we have to set up these systems to where they're sustainable, to where they build on themselves rather than depleting the land, rather than pulling everything out. We have to make it to where the system puts things back in. It's regenerative, right? That's not just a fancy word. It means it regenerates the soil. It makes the soil better, because how does a forest grow? One layer at a time, right? It starts with the weeds and grass stuff growing up, and all of a sudden trees start to go through, and then all of a sudden things start to grow, and then a tree falls down, and where that tree falls down, it leaves a bunch of biomass, and it can eat off of that, and more fruit trees and whatever else can grow, and it takes years and years and years and years. Well, what we're doing with the forestry system is just fast tracking that, all right? So instead of waiting for fruit trees or waiting for this or waiting for that, we're putting them in, and then we're chopping stuff down, and we're putting it in, and then we're chopping stuff down, and we're just making it happen faster. So that way we can have a system that feeds us because we feed it. And so it's a cycle, right? The cool part about growing stuff, about ag, about food, is that if you do it right, it can work for you. And most of the work is done by the sun anyway. The sun does most of the work because it's the thing that's beating down on the plants, and they're acting as mini solar panels to absorb the energy to then grow into plants, right? And so if you just put the system in place, make sure to have systems in place for watering, understanding when you need to weed or what you need to weed, or throwing in enough other plants to make sure that you don't need to weed, do it the centropic style, that kind of deal, then it's a lot easier, a lot more productive, and it takes less manual input, especially compared to a lawn. I mean, how much time do we spend mowing our lawns each week, each month? How much money do we spend mowing? How much money do we spend on weed eaters and tractors? And don't get me wrong, on my 10th birthday, I got a John Deere riding lawnmower as from my grandfather. That was kind of the thing back then. Was well, it's still the thing today, is John Deere riding lawnmowers. But basically, I got a chore for my 10th birthday. But I love that thing. It was so much fun riding around, just chopping everything down. Eventually, at one time, I accidentally backed it into one of our windows. That was tough. Yeah. Good times, not so good times. That was by the old fig tree. I was trying to mow around the tree, and then I accidentally, I backed up. I thought I was pretty good at the time. I was like backing up. I was like, all right, let's miss the tree root, miss the tree root. Hit the window. Oh no. Shut off the mower, turn around. The entire living room window is just into the floor. I'm like, I should probably let somebody know about this. And yeah, so kept mowing after that though. Finished the lawn. I let them know, obviously, before I kept mowing. But I didn't stop mowing after that day. Like, I still kept mowing. I was just much more careful about backing up. The point being, rather than just cutting down grass every week, right? Like, imagine if we have a system, right? And that at that point in my life, my goal was just keep the system at level 1. Keep the system at level 1. Keep the system at level 1. And every week, the system would try to go to level 2. it'd try to go to level 3, and I'd like, no, we're putting you back to level 1. You got to be a level 1 system, because that's what we like. We like level 1 systems that don't have any biodiversity, that don't feed us. Instead, what we're now doing is saying, hey, how can we get this to a level 100 system in the shortest amount of time possible? All right, so we let it go to level 1, or we dig things up, put them in, that puts it straight to a level 4, 5, or 6 system, and then we put things around it and then let it grow into a level 8, 9, 10, 11 system over the first year, and then we just start building and compounding and letting it go from there, to where rather than just cutting things down over and over again and having an empty lawn full of nothingness, right? We have vegetables, we have fruits, we have herbs, we have medicinals, we have perennial vegetables, we have all kinds of different stuff already started, and it just takes time and less water, oddly enough, than what we were already like doing if we wanted to have a lawn in the first place. Like, it takes less water to grow fruit trees and to grow vegetables and stuff like that in a lot of time, in like a lot of ways, just because like grass is so water intensive. And so the point of this all is, our current system is set up for failure. It doesn't work properly. It does not produce very high quality ingredients for food, for people, whatever else. It's very fragile. It's susceptible to easily damage. Like, it wouldn't take very much to damage the system. And not only that, we don't grow anything. We're just cutting everything down. So instead of that, what I'm suggesting is that we start growing more stuff, and you specifically, because we start growing stuff means nothing, right? Unless you start growing something, nothing changes. It's not about one person. It's not about 10 people. It's about you. You, my friend, have to start growing, because if you start growing, then you will be on the right track, right? It's not just about everyone doing it. Yes, we want everyone to do it, but it's more importantly about you doing it, my friend, because if you do it, then that starts someone else. That starts your food sustainability journey. And as soon as that gets started, then everyone else around you, it's like a domino. You'll see your neighbors start doing it. You'll see your friends start doing it, because they're going to see what you're doing and think, wow, that's really cool. And then they're going to want to do it too, because we all just want to grow stuff at the end of the day. We don't know it at first. I didn't know it at first. I didn't know I just wanted to go and grow fruit trees. I didn't know I wanted to grow microgreens, but then I started doing it, and it was kind of fun. And I'm like, man, I just like growing stuff. And so now we grow a little bit of everything. We grow a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and we're just going to keep on growing. And I recommend you do the same, because with everything going on in the world right now, growing things is one of the most important and least accounted for skills out there. And so with that being said, start a garden, start a food forest, start anything, right? But just start it this week. Plant your first seed, okay? If you don't know what seed to plant, ChatGPT your local area and what to start this week if you started from seed, and just do it, right? It's not very complicated. You can get started for less than $20 even if you just get like a pot, a little bit of potting mix and a seed, or you can buy a transplant from Walmart for like $4, right? We still have the grocery stores, so thank goodness, like nothing has happened yet, so you can go to the grocery store and buy plants. Do that if you need to. Be my guest. I've done it, right? I'm still getting used to how to do this, right? I'm still learning how to do this. A lot of us are still new at this. I once asked a guy in Michigan, I was knocking doors up there, and I saw he had a farmer plate on the back of his truck, and he said, I said, hey man, I see you got a farmer plate on the back of your truck. He's like, yeah. I was like, I kind of want to be a farmer. This was like 3 years ago. I was like, I kind of want to be a farmer. He's like, yeah. I was like, what do you got to do to be a farmer? He's like, how old are you? I was like, I'm like 23. He's like, 23, huh? Should have started 23 years ago. I was like, thanks, pal. That doesn't help me at all. And so I moved on, and now look at me. We're farming anyway, because who cares? But he's right, though. If I wanted to be really good at this, I would have started like 20 years ago. Luckily, we have AI, so we get a bit of a head start. But we got to be quick with it, because you never know when things are going to hit the fan. With that being said, got a little update. I got my cleavers. This is way bigger of a pack than I thought it was gonna be. So it's like a whole pound. Like, this is nuts. But I'm gonna start taking this in tea. And hopefully this will help with the lymph and everything like that. It was day 2 of the cleanse. I had like 2 sweet potatoes steamed. I learned the art of steaming this week. I've never steamed veggies, you know? Kind of crazy considering like I've eaten a lot of different diets, but I never tried steamed veggies, or I've never steamed them myself, of course. Obviously, I've had steamed vegetables. But yeah, so I steamed vegetables for the first time. That was really cool. I kind of like it. And after having fasted, everything tastes way better. So even steamed veggies have like a ton of flavor. So I can only imagine like what like real food is gonna taste like whenever I can actually like eat normally again. But yeah, so just doing teas. Hopefully gonna do like castor oil packs, and I've got some other stuff coming in soon. But that was the basis of the video. Go grow something, go plant something, get it started, because it's one thing you definitely aren't going to regret doing is learning how to grow. So go ahead, go grow, go grow, and yeah, I'll talk to you soon.